Since the FBI began keeping track, an estimated 1,600 people have vanished without a trace in the wilds and mountains of North America. But one man, James Townsend, claims to know what happened to many of them, saying he almost became one of the missing. His story is terrifying, and what he encountered may forever change how we view the wilderness. James refers to the creature as the Way to Gay, a name from Native American folklore meaning man-eating creature. But unlike the ancient descriptions, James said these creatures have become smarter and more dangerous over the past century, and their intelligence makes them even better at hiding from humans. This is his story. People have been disappearing for centuries, but records of these disappearances in North America have only been tracked for about 50 years. This story focuses on those who vanished while venturing into the wilds, never to return. And when I say vanished, I mean completely disappeared, without a single trace. No footprints, no remains, nothing. So how many people have truly disappeared in these remote places? That's a question with no definitive answer, but it's likely much higher than the recorded numbers. The year was 1962, and James Townsend was only 17 years old. Born and raised in the small town of Quinn, South Dakota, near the Badlands, James grew up poor. Every weekend, he'd go scavenging for food in the wilderness to help feed his family. Little did he know, one fateful summer day would change his life forever. On a scorching July morning, James set out on his usual trek into the Badlands. The air was still, and the eerie quiet that morning made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. Something felt off, but despite his unease, James pressed on. By dusk, as he was heading back home, something horrific happened. Out of nowhere, a sharp, agonizing pain struck his lower back. James looked down and saw something nightmarish. A long, black, shiny claw had impaled him from behind. He turned to catch a glimpse of the thing that attacked him. But before he could see, he was knocked unconscious. When James regained consciousness, he was being dragged through the dirt by his leg, his vision blurry, and his body too weak to fight back. His mind screamed at him to move, to free himself, but his body refused to obey. As darkness fell, he realized he was being taken somewhere deep into the wilderness, possibly a cave. When they stopped, James realized he was in a cave. A small fire flickered nearby, casting eerie shadows on the walls. His entire body ached, and the stench of rotting flesh filled the air. That's when he blacked out again, slipping into a terrifying nightmare. In his dream, he saw himself being skinned alive by a monstrous creature, a beast unlike anything he could have ever imagined. Other bodies were piled nearby, all stripped of their skin, as if this horror had happened many times before. When James woke again, he heard a commotion. Two dark figures were locked in a brutal fight, snarling and thrashing at each other. One of the creatures finally collapsed, while the other continued to writhe in pain. As James lay there, paralyzed with fear, he knew one thing: he had to escape. As dawn broke, the cave was faintly illuminated. James saw the creatures, both dead. With what little strength he had regained, he carefully stood up and began to stumble out of the cave, praying there were no more of them. He walked for hours, barely able to see, crossing rivers and climbing mountains. By the time he reached a dirt road, he collapsed from exhaustion. When James woke again, he was in a hospital in White Clay, Nebraska, 50 miles from the Badlands. He had no idea how he had ended up so far from where he started. Weeks later, a Native American tribal leader approached James, asking him about the incident. James told him everything, and the tribal leader's response sent chills down his spine. "You are lucky to be alive," the man said. "What you encountered is what we call the Way to Gay. They've been around for centuries, taking people from our tribes, eating them." He went on to explain that these creatures have grown smarter and more cunning over the years, making them even deadlier to humans. James never returned to the Badlands after that experience, and the story of his encounter spread through the town.